regarding Dr. Robinson's attendance.
Motion to excuse Dr. Robinson's absence this evening.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. So then we will have Robin as the replacement for Dr. Robinson this evening. And since we do not have Taylor here, why don't we get started for a couple minutes, and then if we go past maybe 5, then we'll see about adding Carol to the mix. All right. All right. Well, thanks everybody for being here. The first item is follow-up on our STAR results from meetings past. So, Paul, if you wouldn't mind walking us through, we had some questions back to planning and zoning about the built environment. So we can talk about that.
Yeah, good evening, Paul Smith, Public Services Director. The first item had to do with some questions you had about open space, and I'll pause a minute here.
Would you like me to do roll call then?
You want to redo the roll call? Or just
Sure.
hold?
So let's go ahead and do roll call now.
Okay. Chairperson Dory Larson,
Present.
Vice Chairperson Paul Robinson is absent and excused. Member Taylor Mandalou,
Present.
Member Denise Menino,
Here.
Member Karen Gallagher,
Here.
Member Robin Sanger,
Here.
Member Carol Makett.
Here.
Very good. Okay, so back to Paul.
Thank you. So we're talking about open space. This was in one of the goal areas, and some questions came up. You have this email in your backup, but I'll just read the response. It's not too long. This is from, from Renee Vincent, the planning director. And the question was, should open space be further categorized by type into natural areas versus maintained areas? Renee writes, I think this is something that could be explored as part of the overall comp plan update. For example, we already have policies in the comp plan that require preservation of significant upland habitat as part of the development review process, but we don't have a distinct goal or target for the city as a whole related to preserving upland habitat. Once we know what we're trying to achieve, we can develop policies, codes, and performance-based review, etc. Similar, and she has an idea here, that we could think about enhancements or restoration of existing sites as some type of development credit toward the additional density and intensity. I suggest this because we're near build out and will lose the opportunity for set-asides of land very soon. The next one had to do with, should we have code updates for light policy? Having some metrics in the code regarding maximum light levels could be useful, especially from a future code enforcement standpoint. Again, I think we need to better understand what the overall target is for the city and see how we can best move toward that goal. And finally, the gentrification question, should we put that somehow into our planning or codes? And Renee acknowledges this is a tough issue to deal with from a regulatory standpoint. One of the things that we have discussed is to move towards a specialized neighborhood plan. She says, think of it like smart codes that address unique characteristics as well as provide room for acceptable growth and diversification of uses. However, none of that really stops outside investors from acquiring properties, redeveloping, etc. I think utilizing a CRA designation, community redevelopment area, that captures the tax increment dollars can be redirected back in the neighborhood and support affordable housing as a better approach. So she gives you some ideas there moving forward, and you can see how this would tie into our sustainability action plan as we develop targets and things. Those would be brought to planning and zoning for consideration to build into our codes. So that's 1A.
Can we just make sure that we've got like an asterisk or something by each of those, Ashley, when you're putting the whole thing together so that we capture these notes?
Sure.
To make sure that we address them like in
Yeah.
a future date?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And I'm just curious, with the areas that are historical, how they've been able to establish some sort of protection for the identity of an area that's historical, that exhibits the culture of, the historical culture of the city. So how do they do that? Because, I mean, in a similar way, I'm thinking that other aspects of this town need to be protected for the identity sake.
Yeah, the preservation sort of things. And I really don't pretend to be an expert in that area. I can certainly bring that back to Renee. I don't think I can really elaborate any on
Yeah,
answering that.
that's a question that I have.
I think
about
that's in
how
tonight's
they've done
too.
it.
Like when we talk about, one of the sections is about
It
historic
is, and
preservation,
yeah,
so.
yeah, I was really wondering, well, how did they manage to establish that, you know, and legally?
Right. Sounds tricky. So I did want to add one more thing about, you had some questions about the landfill last time, and I did some follow-up research on that. This is our closed landfill. It's about 55 acres. And by way of background, probably 10 years or more ago, we had a consultant look at converting that to a sports complex and what would it take to do that. And some of those things are still hold true today. What you have there is an old landfill that was operating in the up until maybe the early 70s, if I remember right. And I think it had a portion of it as municipal solid waste, a true like garbage dump. So what you have are actually gas collection vents scattered throughout the area. They're actually above ground pipes that they monitor, you know, the gas to see if there's actually something being generated, which would indicate decomposition is still active. There's also a liner over the top, and that's all designed to keep water from infiltrating and creating a backup of fluid known as leachate that could escape out into the groundwater and contaminate it. So they're very concerned about those things, and I don't think that'll ever go away. So in other words, anything that we do to that site has to take that into account. For example, some of the ideas they had for the sports complex, instead of having big light poles that go make holes through this, they were coming up with these sort of platform things, giant cement bases on these so that you wouldn't have to penetrate the liner. It makes things very expensive. So is it impossible to plant trees there and do those sorts of things? Probably not, but it's just going to take a lot of work and consideration. He did point me towards some guidance documents. This has been done before. In fact, there's something by DEP called Guidance for, I can't read my own writing, use of old closed landfills in Florida. So, I mean, it's very, very appropriate for what we're looking at. So I intend to read into that a little more. I know there's lots of ideas for that area. And, you know, I think people want to see it be beneficially used. So that's that information.
Where do you find examples, the examples? You'll look into that and tell us?
Yes.
Very good. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Next item on the agenda is a revisit of the equity and empowerment, and we have a presentation from Chief Young and Major Ruggiero. So thank you both for being here tonight.
Hello, thank you for having me. Jeff Young, Chief of Police for Tarpon Springs Police Department. With me tonight is Major Frank Ruggiero, who helped put a lot of this information together for us. He oversees our accreditation process. Did everybody get a chance to review the information that we sent ahead of time? Because I just wanted you to have an overview of our department. I don't want to sit here and go over all that, but I think it's important for you all to know what a full-service police department that you have here in this city and what we do on a daily basis. So that was important to us to get that to you. If you have questions, feel free to ask anything about anything at the department. We're here to answer anything. But we did want to get right into the outcome goals that you were looking at. And the first one under EE2, civil and human rights, the resolution of compliance. Was that the first one? No, there we go. Okay. Was a resolution of compliance. It demonstrated that all police and non-police related civil and human rights complaints in the past 3 years have been investigated and violations redressed in a timely manner. We gave you some information there through state statutes. We're actually required to do all these things through state statutes. You're going to hear me talk a lot about accreditation, and we are a fully accredited agency, and they have a lot of mandates in the structure that we have to show compliance with. They come in every 3 years, review our files, and go inside and out of our department. They'll interview people and make sure that we're actually not just having a policy, but doing what our policy says and following through on it. So those are things that I think that we're able to address. And I think, like I said to Dory beforehand, I think we're able to show you that about 99% of the stuff that you guys are looking for, we already have. There's just one item that, and we'll address that here in a little bit. But if you look at there, again, it talks about the mandatory administrative review. Chapter 7, Conduct and Discipline, contains 8 different standards. And those are the things that accreditation sets up for us that we have to do to come into compliance. Resolution outcome number 1, resolution of compliance part 1 and 2 response for the 3-year period. Major Ruggiero compiled a list of information for you, and we have that in that packet for you. I think that could help to show the standard that you're trying to get the points for, that we are in compliance with that. We received a total of 47 complaints. Now, these are not just civil rights violations or unfair treatment. They're all complaints on departments. We look into every complaint that is brought our way and goes through our review policies and then to the chief's office for a final recommendation. And then we received 47 complaints during that 3-year period. Of those, 6 of those were referenced to violations of civil or human rights. State statute governs how we close our internal affairs investigations. They're either sustained, not sustained, unfounded, or exonerated. Put the definitions in there. Those are state statute definitions. Are also part of our general orders, and I believe Major Ruggiero gave you all copies of different general orders that are going to be applicable to a lot of the outcomes that you're looking for. Of these 6 compliance from this category, only 1 was sustained on conduct on becoming an officer. We had a report of the, I put some of the information in there about what the actual complaints were to show you a variation of it. That information's in the packets and available for us if you need it to show compliance with the standard. That's just more of that. Again, all of these investigations are taken very serious and investigated to the fullest extent possible. Now, I did see one of the standards in there talk about making sure that it's done in a timely manner. We have to do it within 180 days per state statute. It's already governed in there. Our policies dictate that unless there's mitigating circumstances that would prevent it from happening. So there's a little flexibility in there for some things, but that very, very rarely happens. So it does happen in a timely fashion. An annual review is conducted of all our violations as well as bias-based policing, and we're going to get into that here in the next couple slides. But at the end of each year, through the accreditation standards, we do reviews of all our best practices, our policies and procedures, and make sure we're actually doing what we say we're doing. Inventory and assessment or survey, collect, analyze, publish data. Oh, yes.
So can I just, the way that we've been going through it is we look at like the outcomes and sometimes there's choices and then we look at the local actions. So in terms of outcome 1, resolution of complaints, the way that it's written, are you comfortable with the way that it's written? Is the 3 years too long? I mean, is this?
I mean, that's a standard I'll leave to you. We're doing it every year.
Right.
We have the information, so whatever
Okay.
you want, we'll get to you.
Okay.
We're an open book. In part of your things, it talks about transparency. State of Florida is a very open state. 119, Chapter 119, public records laws and stuff. Our information's open unless there's an exemption in there. And those exemptions are not, they're very restrictive. So the information that you're trying to glean in this report is information that we're collecting, analyzing, and is available to anybody that wants to review it.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
I have a question.
Yes.
So with respect to people who may put in complaints so how many people do you suspect may want to put in a complaint but are afraid to?
I don't have a way to quantify that.
Yeah. But do you have an
we-
intuition about that?
Do I have what?
An intuition
I
about it?
think that the majority of people today, when they want to make a complaint, they're ready to call, they call us. So we receive calls, and a lot of times, again, some people just want to know answers to questions, not so much that they're complaining. They'll call in, and our supervisors will take the calls, or my secretary or anybody else in the building, and we'll ask them, well, what are you looking for? Is it information that you need? Yeah, I want to know why I would this. We'll go through that. Okay, well, do you want to still follow through with a complaint? No, you answered my questions. Thank you.
Okay.
So that's probably 90% of the complaints that we get are solved that way. You know, but we do have a formal process too. Officers have rights under 112. So if the citizen's making a complaint, we need to investigate that, but the officers also have the right to due process. So those are all factors that are taken into it and then becomes part of the investigation.
Well, I would have to say that I would be somewhat reluctant to make a complaint, because I wouldn't know what the backlash could be. You know, there's all this
You know,
stuff.
that people's perceptions and of reality, I can't help that.
Yeah.
What they've experienced in life, I can't help that. I don't know what everybody's experienced. All I know is that we have an open process. We have the availability to people. We put the information out there. We have bias-based policing
Yeah, I see that.
pamphlets. We keep those out at our front doors of the police department. It's also up on our website, so that information is available online. You can make an anonymous complaint and put it into the department. We'll investigate it. Again, now the officers have due process under 112, so we're going to have to do a lot more investigation there. But there's plenty of ways for people to do it. If they don't feel comfortable coming to us, FDLE takes complaints, also the FBI. The FBI oversees most of the complaints that you're looking for in human rights violations, so they'll address those and go through their investigative procedures.
And what is FLAE, Florida,
FDLE, Florida Department of Law Enforcement.
okay?
And Jeff, could you explain
Thank you.
that? They're
That's
like
very
the
informative.
regulation arm? of
Well,
this?
they're not the regulatory arm, but they're more like, I would say, like, almost to the level of a state police agency. Their jurisdiction is statewide. They do a lot of the investigations there. We're actually using them right now for officer-involved shooting. We have a memorandum of understanding with them, and in a matter of transparency, we're not going to investigate that ourselves. We turn it over to an independent agency like FDLE, and they bring in a host of interviewers and their investigators, and they're the ones that will delve into that situation and then do a report and work that out with the state. So to answer your question, that's kind of what they do on a broader base.
Thank you. Informative, thank you.
And then also, I just wanted to make sure that, I'm sure Paul did explain to you that for the local actions, it's not that we have to select all of them, that we've, as a committee, kind of selected the ones that we think are kind of,
I
went to
think
the top of the
Major
list.
Rosiero kind of went through the video and was trying to answer all the questions that you guys had. So he sat there painstakingly listening to what your questions were at your last meeting, and we tried to address those here. Like I said, whatever you guys think will get into there, if it's going to help in your point evaluations and so forth for the city, you decide what those standards will be. But we're here and we have the information available.
Okay, and then also just to explain, the process that we're going through is that we're, as a group, deciding what we think the priority should be, and then the intent is to go to staff, so to you, and to say, what do you guys think that the priority should be? And then take it to the community and say, community, what do you think that the priority should be? So it's good to hear,
I would say this. I would say if the perception is that you're putting it out there to the community that we are not doing this, that is what I would not want to see. If it's, hey, this is already being done, we have a way of gathering this information in the sustainability report now, but it's already being done. It's a win-win.
absolutely. So maybe that's something that we really haven't considered. We've talked about it a little bit, I think, with some of the planning stuff, we're already doing this, so maybe we don't need to include it, or maybe we should include it anyway, just so that people know that we're doing it. But I think that it would be really helpful for the community to understand, you guys are already doing all of these things. So maybe we put it in there just as a like, yes, we reinforce that these are,
And I would probably just
Best
put in highlights,
practices.
already being done, and whatever.
Right, I was thinking that the language, just the way that it is stated would be different. If it's already, it's something that we are enacting.
or maybe even color coded, like if it's in bright yellow,
It's
like
in bright
city's
yellow, it's
already
already
doing this,
doing
already
this.
in practice.
Mention that we even have like stricter timeframes on that particular action or outcome, like the 180 days versus 3 years.
And this could be an appendix to it so that people could reference it. But we also want it to be outcomes that will be in the future. And one never knows if you gentlemen leave, maybe someone will put in something else. So it's good just to have guidelines. And given that they're already followed, bravo.
Okay,
I do think it needs to be addressed, that it is being taken care of, because we discussed this on another issue where we don't want the community to think we ignored it.
right.
Completely. So I appreciate that. It needs to be in there somewhere.
So I just want to make sure that, capture that note.
We ready to go on to the next one?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you. Sorry
All right.
for that.
Hey, no problem.
I just wanted
Hey,
to
I'm glad
make
we
sure
can
that we're on the same
clarify any
page with what we're
questions you
trying
have.
to do tonight. Okay.
That's what we're here for. Inventory assessment of survey. The Tarpon Springs Police Department has collected data and analysis. Again, those surveys are in there in your packets. This covers all areas of biased policing complaints, traffic stops, forfeitures, search seizures, and our own practices. The last analysis was conducted in January 2021 and is attached in your report. And again, those are done annually. As part of our accreditation standards and are made available. So they're open to the public. What's that? No, that's in tab number 2.
Right.
Still going on that, the results from this review concluded that all of the current policies and practices in effect for our department are in compliance with state legislation prohibiting bias-based enforcement activities, and all activities during the review were a result of an enforcement of a state law and met the burden of proof as required. And again, we go through each call for that and complaint and make sure that everything's, all the i's are dotted and t's are crossed there. Policy and code adjustment, adopt policies or amend the jurisdiction charter to specifically protect the civil rights and human rights of all. Again, right back to state statutes, we're already required to do this, and it's laid out in state statutes as well as our general orders. Major Ruggiero listed the general order numbers there. I believe we gave you copies of all those general orders, and our officers are held to those standards. Practice improvements, establish an office within the jurisdiction with the authority and capacity to investigate civil and human rights complaints. We also already have professional standards group that, when these complaints come in, I'll direct whoever the appropriate major is, whether it's under the administrative side or the operations side, and then delegate a couple of supervisors to do the investigation into the allegation of wrongdoing by an officer. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement, we went through this already, they could also be addressed. We'll actually, when people sit there and say, well, I don't like the outcome, I don't like what you said, Chief, I said, that's fine, I understand that. Here's Florida Department of Law Enforcement, here's their contact information. You can contact them, here's the packet of all the information that we gathered up for you, and it's available here if they need to come in and take a look at it. Also more than welcome to go to the FBI website, and you can go on there as well and make a complaint if it's a human rights violation. So those are 2 more steps or agencies that can monitor and come in and do an investigation as well for a citizen. And we put that information out there. Again, it is in our packet, it's on our website, and we do pass that information on. So. Education and outreach, conduct local public education campaigns regarding civil and human rights, such as the process for filing complaints. We have brochures. We've already talked about that. That's in your packet. It's also up on our website. I think it's under tab number 3. That same information is on one of our pages on our website. If you haven't been to our website, I invite you to go there and take a look at everything on there, and a lot of the information is front and center on our website for people to look and explore and take their options. Partnerships and collaboration. Establish an independent civil and/or human rights commission to ensure equity and inclusion for all. When I said we're doing 99% of the things that you're looking at, this is probably the one thing that we don't have. We don't have enough complaints to justify having an impaneled board, because you'd have to be the training, and keeping them up to date on everything and all the information. It's not just you can throw anybody in a seat, because again, they have to be very well versed on Chapter 112, as well as 119 public records, but Chapter 112 for the Officer Bill of Rights, and they would have to go through and be compliant with that, as well as all the information. So I think that having that committee for as infrequently of the complaint volume, I would probably say, it's not warranted.
We didn't identify it as one of the actions either.
Our Action 6, practice improvements, provide training for police officers, focus on implicit bias, cultural responsiveness, and non-discrimination. We are required to go through hooplas of training. And some of that is right under there on Florida State Statute 943. You'll see basic skills training related to diverse populations, as well as 943-1716, continued employment training relating to diverse populations. We go through these training things. We have a lot of different vessels in which we bring the training to the officers. It's in person. We'll send people away to training courses. We have Power DMS, which is a computer-based program that monitors everything, and we're able to send out videos for officers to watch, and then it'll log and show that they watched the video, answered the questions, and so forth. So there's a lot of training mechanisms in place. We do try to do a lot of in-house training, and a lot of it is geared towards bias-based policing. Our right training is definitely along that parameter.
So I just want to interrupt, because that was a spirited conversation at the last meeting. There was someone who thought that was, I don't know, inappropriate to have that kind of training. And I think that the consensus from our committee was that why wouldn't you want to have that training? And so I'm glad that you are addressing that you're already doing that. And that, to me, that makes a lot of sense. So.
We can give you a list of all the training that we provide for officers and stuff. There's many layers and levels of training that an officer goes through. People, I always laugh when I'm watching the news and they say, oh, well, officers need training here and here. I said, come look at an officer's packet one day and see the training that they go through. And you have a different understanding of what it takes to put on a uniform and go out there every day and be a social worker, a doctor, a lawyer, pharmacist, a psychiatrist, and everything else all wrapped up in one person on a daily basis to help a community. And I think our officers do an excellent job of it on a daily basis, and they live through our core values.
Thank you.
Thank you. Action number 7, practice improvements, modify law enforcement operations to increase transparency and accountability in interactions between community members and law enforcement. Recently, we went to body-worn cameras with all our officers. I'm sure you've seen one of our body-worn camera videos up on the news just this past weekend. That we got those in here for transparency, but to be honest with you, our officers are the ones that were asking for it. For a couple years, our officers were asking, and Chief Cohesion, we want to get these for you. We want to get them for you. And, the city commission went through and said, yes, let's get that for them. And so, kudos to them and getting that done. It definitely, when people come in to make the complaints like you were asking, we sit down with them, we show them the video. And normally what they're saying didn't happen. The words that they say came out of the officer's mouth usually didn't come out of the officer's mouth. They imply that that's what was said, but it's not actually what was said. So, and I do think that most people, when they're confronted with that and they see that, that's when they're saying, okay, I'm fine. I understand now. Thank you. And so in a transparency, I do an accountability, but it's also, a good supportive tool for the officers. Practice improvements, modify law enforcement operations to increase transparency. Our in-car and body-worn cameras. We also have 2 in-car cameras. We have a front dash mount camera and a backseat camera, again, to monitor prisoners in the back as well as the officers out on patrol. So you're getting different vantage points and views to see what's going on. And then if there is a complaint, whatever it is, if somebody says, well, I was hit in the back of the police car. Well, we can bring up that video in our holding cell. We can bring up those videos and investigate those, so in complete transparency. Operationalize the local government civil and human rights policies and program services and operations. These policies have been, we've been doing these for more than a decade now, since we've been accredited. I tell you, getting accredited was a great thing for this agency. And in any agency, because you're held to a standard and you have to show compliance with those standards. Now, that's not just a one-time deal. It's, they're coming in every 3 years and they want to see it for the past 3 years. So you can't just all of a sudden show them, hey, here's one for this month now that you're here. Well, we want to see the compliance for this month. Then they're going to sit there and they're going to go out and ride with the officers. Hey, what's your policy on pursuits? Tell me about that. And they ask questions. So your officers have to be up to date on their job knowledge and their training. So training's a big issue with accreditation. And, that's the one thing I think that really spurred me on, when Frank and I first went to the accreditation training and stuff, that what it makes an agency provide is excellent training for their officers to go out and serve the community. And I think that's what we do very well here. Programs and services provide language translation or interpretation services to ensure that residents have access to information about their civil and human rights in local government. We have language lines that we contract with, so our dispatch can call into them, and it's any language. So whatever language we need to get, we'll get somebody. Our officers are all assigned cell phones. They can make the calls from out on the scenes, get interpretation. There's also text to talk or talk to text, whichever one that is, in our dispatch center for hearing impaired as well. So try to cover all the bases that we can there. Those resources are pretty well out there. And a lot of officers even have apps on their phones with languages, you can get one for, Spanish, Greek, Italian, whatever, and just sit there and talk to it in your phone and converse at least back and forth with the individual and get them information. We try to, most of our packets are in Spanish and English at the police department for, to hand out. And I'll leave it open for questions.
All right, questions from the committee?
I have questions.
Go for it.
What is the demographic of the police officers? Like, how racially, how many are white, black, Hispanic, and
Well,
stuff like
you have the numbers?
I don't have the exact numbers.
Off the top of my head, I mean, African-American, we are down on. We've had a few retirements. Recruiting is a difficult thing for an agency our size, and getting representation of your community, that's a challenge all the time. Something that we address and we talk about. Sergeant Mathis, who's one African-American on our department, he's actually overseeing our recruitment efforts now. Him and I have had these talks about getting into schools, getting into earlier and trying to, motivate kids in the community and reaching out to leaders in our community to try to get more inclusive and a broader spectrum of individuals that represent the entire population. We used to have some Greek officers. I think we have one Greek officer now. Hispanic officers, I believe 5. Females were at six, right? 6 or 7. So we're actually, for percentage-wise, we have 53 sworn officers.
Oh, okay.
And 6 females. That's a pretty good number when you look at percentages and so forth across that population. Could it be better? Absolutely.
Aren't half of the population female, if not more?
Not Well, now I'm not talking about the general population. I'm talking about population in police work.
Oh, I see,
So,
okay.
you know, yeah, that's where the, you know, in general in police work, you know, we're ahead of the curve with female officers
Got it.
percentage-wise in a department. We would fall behind in African-American right now, Hispanic, yes. But as far as what you're asking, in a total population of 50-50 or 51-49, and, you know, that, you know, there is a push out there, and we've actually just talked about it, 30 for 30, having 30% female officers by 2030. So that's one of those goals that's out there for law enforcement, you know, and that's going to be recruitment efforts and going out there and trying to entice people into this career field. It's a tough time to recruit people into this career field. You know, people, you know, when they would turn on the news and police are criticized every second of the day, but yet most people wouldn't want to step out there and do what the police officer does. But they'll call for us to do it and then sit back. But, you know, finding the people that have that in their heart to get out there and serve and put their own life on the line, it takes a special person. And, you know, hopefully we can reach people. We do that. You know, we have SROs out of all the schools. We go into classrooms and talk to kids. We try to mentor as many as we can. And anybody that wants to get into this profession, we're willing to sit down and talk with and help guide them.
I have another question. So I really applaud you by how you describe your department and what you've accomplished. So what I'm curious about is when you say that all of these checks and balances are in place, you have to meet all of these requirements by the state, you have accreditation. So if Tarpon Springs has to meet that, I'm assuming every police department in Florida.
Becoming accredited is voluntary.
Okay.
It's not required. Major Ruggiero sits on the board up there for the accreditation, so I'll let him address the accreditation and the actual numbers of agencies throughout the state. We're accredited through the CFA, the Commission on Florida Accreditation. There's CALIA, which is a national one, which more designed for larger agencies and, you know, with multiple things like the jail and patrol and so forth. But CFA is more geared towards smaller agencies, and it's a Florida-based accreditation.
And the thing with accreditation, for the Florida state accreditation, there's roughly about 430 agencies right now in the state of Florida, and there's only about 170 or so that are actually accredited. So it's not an easy process. It's not a rubber stamp. It's very hard. And there have been several agencies that have lost their accreditation because they haven't done what they were supposed to be doing. So it's not only hard to get it, it's very hard to keep it. The reason we go with the state is because it's specific to our state and our statutes. The national accreditation isn't specific to our statutes, such as we have a new one called risk protection orders that doesn't really meet the guidelines to actually Baker Act somebody. The rest of the country doesn't have that. So if we were nationally accredited, we wouldn't even have to comply with that because they wouldn't even know we have it as a state law. So that's why we stick with state accreditation, because it's more specific to what we actually do, what our training that our officers actually give. And with our state accreditation, to keep your certification, because every officer has to go through a certification process every 4 years to get recertified. The state requires you have 40 hours of mandatory retraining during that 4 years. We, as our department, decided we're going to make them have 40 hours every single year. So that a minimum, they're getting 160 hours, which is 3 times more than every other agency that's required that's not accredited. And a lot of accredited agencies do that because it's living by saying we're the best of the best. We're the top 30% of the agencies in the state of Florida just by being accredited. And it helps with insurance, and it's really a business of best practices more than anything.
So
And that's
why
why we do all
doesn't every
this.
department be required to do
It
that?
takes money, obviously. You first need a financial commitment to it, and then resources. You know, we're able to have Major Ruggiero was the accreditation manager. Now, Sergeant Mathis is the accreditation manager, as well as recruiting. Those are the two things that he's overseeing now. So to have a full-time person, because it's a full-time job, because daily you have to gather information and start moving things into place to show your compliance. So a lot of agencies don't want to take that initiative, and depending on the size of the agency too, where if they even have the resource to do it, to pull somebody off a patrol or something of that nature, or get a civilian position if they deem fit.
Any other questions?
No questions. I just have a comment about accreditation. That's just it's such a strong thing for you guys to do, and it really puts us at a level that's above, as you said, many of the agencies in the state. And I just think that's something we can be really proud of. So I appreciate all your hard work towards doing that. I know it's not easy.
Thank you.
And, yeah, it's good. Thanks.
If I could add, I just want to thank Chief Young and Major Ruggiero. They put a lot of time, you can probably tell, into the work. Listened to the meeting. They wanted to hear what you had to say, and then I think responded very, very particularly to what your questions were. So thank you for that.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much.
And I'd like to say thank you as well. And I just have a few comments. In terms of, like, I think some people think, like, how is this sustainability? But it's definitely, to me, that cohesiveness of our community that makes Tarpon so special. And I think that the Tarpon Police Department does an excellent job of keeping that cohesion. And in terms of how we could make your job easier, I mean, it dawned on me that making sure that we are highlighting all of the things that you guys are already doing so that we can kind of communicate to the community through the Sustainability Action Plan what you guys are doing. Because, you know, I think that that's part of what makes a community special, is being able to, like, help each other shine and be able to, you know, come together
Absolutely.
as a community. So thank you for, I know it took, I'm sure, a ton of time to put this all together, and to listen to our meeting and to bring all of this information to us. So, yeah, it takes a very special person, I think, to put their, you know, life and family on the line when they go out and do their job, and it's very much appreciated. So thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Yep, thank you, thank you.
Nice night.
Thank you.
You too. Thanks.
Can I just comment that I think it'd be important to, when we go back to revisit this, to put in there that the police department is an accredited.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I think, so when we revisit that, can we just revisit putting that in there, because I think that's important.
Good idea, and put that in perspective of what that means, how many agencies in the state are accredited, and that it's a
Rigorous process.
it's a
Yeah.
And that
rigorous process, and
There were.
They're exceeding the demands of the accreditation.
Yes, so not only are they taking that extra step to become
Yeah.
accredited, then they're going beyond the minimum of it.
Yeah,
So, yeah, it really is making that percent
Right.
even smaller.
There were 400+ departments and only 170 accredited.
Right.
So I wanted to mention, you all were talking about it, but this theme is coming up, and I think it's good to revisit in our different goal areas, is do we include it if we're already doing it? And I just would, to answer that, go back and say, think of this like your checklist, not just for now, but for the future. So I think that guides us that, yes, we'll want to include these things, even though we've got a great feeling about where we stand right now. That's a chance to acknowledge it, and also a reminder for the future that we need to maintain it or even build on it.
That it's being done
Absolutely.
now, and what we're sustaining is the future
Right.
of this continuing.
And I also wanted to go back and modify, because we had just selected part of the objective with our initial vote, but since they're capturing both already, I'd like to extend that whole objective
Okay.
to A and B, or 1 and 2, or however it's numbered.
Somehow, I think that if we can include something about having, I mean, what they were saying is not common knowledge
No.
to the community. And if we could include some way that the police can personally interact with more of the community so that there becomes this trust and understanding. So as you said, Dory, we're a small community and the police are integral to us. And the more that we can all feel like we're in this together, and they're impressive in terms of what they say they do, and the more we know them, then we say, yeah, they do that, and they're our neighbors, and they're the people who we can trust. And I think that that's really important for sustainability. That trust is crucial. And they need to trust us as well.
I'm just taking a note real quick. Okay. All right, so moving on to our next item on the agenda is our discussion on education, arts, and the community. So thank you to everybody for getting your preferences into Ashley. She was able to compile them, and so we can take a look and go through those. And then we also have our director, Diane Woods, with us. So I don't know if there's, do you want to say something now, or do you want to wait until we go through and act as a resource, or?
Whatever you would prefer. I brought you a few handouts with some things I wanted to point out, but I'll just wait and answer any questions that you have or make comments.
So, and I also want to thank you for, I know it's 6:45 and you're, what day is today? Wednesday? Thursday evening. So that's my week. So I do appreciate you coming in and making yourself available so that we can get questions asked as we're going through this.
My pleasure.
All right, so the first section on arts and culture. I see this as being a kind of a, where we have a lot of conversation tonight, because it seems like everybody wants to do something, but 3 different parts got 1 vote. So, or maybe not, maybe, so let's just start there. Let me pull it up, give me just a second. All right. So arts and culture, so this is provide a broad range of arts and cultural resources and activities that encourage community member participation, creative self-expression, and community revitalization. So outcome 1 is demonstrate creative industries represent at least 5% share of all businesses in the county according to the local arts ordinance, or B, demonstrate creative industries represent at least 5% share on all businesses in the jurisdiction according to locally collected data. And then the second outcome is looking at attendance and participation. And the first part is demonstrate at least 30% of adult residents in the county or city attend a live performing arts event annually. And part 2 is to demonstrate at least 20% of adult residents in the city visit an art museum annually. So does anybody want to speak to what they selected and why? Or, I mean, I realize we only have 1 vote for each one, but there's 4 parts.
I can speak to this. So I selected outcome 1B. And as I understood that ensuring their creative industries, now I think of that as artists and all sorts of things, that ensures a robust community. And I think that that's something that's a consequence of having creative industries. And I think that that's something that invigorates a community and helps to sustain it. So that's why I chose option B.
Okay.
I didn't choose any other option.
I'm just trying to get there.
Trying to get there? Okay.
Yes.
I'll give you a second.
Me too.
Oh, my gosh. One of the things that I had difficulty with in this whole process was
70.
the language of demonstrate. How in the world do you demonstrate the things that they're saying? And it was in almost every sentence or every action.
I agree with you.
And I thought, how do you demonstrate that? And how do you assure that people are involved that way in the community? Thank you.
Thank you. That was a good cue.
Okay.
Hi, Diane Wood. I'm the Director for Culture and Civic Services, and under my department is the library as well as Tarpon Arts. And that's kind of why I brought you this that I use for sponsorships, because I wanted you to see that this says 10,000 tickets, and that's because it was kind of like pre-COVID. We generally average around 1,000 tickets per season. Our seasons run from September through July of the next year. And I just wanted you to see where we're pulling people from, but you can see the concentration that's in Pinellas County and also in Tarpon Springs. And then I break it out in a pie chart for you to show you exactly what percentage those ticket sales are. So to me, in my mind, this is proof that the arts in Tarpon Springs is definitely being utilized by the residents. And we are very cognizant of, customer service, and with the 4 venues that's under the under Tarpon Arts, the Safford House, the Heritage Museum, and then the Cultural Center, Performing Arts Center, which is 70 seats and just reopened, and I'm so thrilled that the Cultural Center is being utilized now. And then the Performing Arts Center here at City Hall. We talk to the patrons, all of my staff. I have a small staff of 5 full-time people, but 3 part-time ticket sales people. And we make it a point to really interact with the patrons, and we get feedback from them on a regular basis. But I really think that this helps to support, Tarpon Springs being head and shoulders above many cities that are about the same size. Because I don't know, I'm a native Floridian, and I've lived in the Tampa Bay area for the last 23 years, and I don't know of another city our size that has the quality of arts and culture that Tarpon Springs does. And I'm very proud of that, and I'm very proud to be a part of the growth here. And, just so and then you could see the diversity of, different genres and things that we're bringing to Tarpon Springs. One of my goals is to partner with other agencies and different other businesses. And for instance, like Shannon, our arborist here at City of Tarpon Springs, we're working together to bring really great information. Now, this is typically something done by the library, because as you know, the library has mostly free, programs and things like that. Tarpon Arts is mostly, a fee-based entity, and we bring in revenue. But when Shannon brought this to me, I thought, what a great opportunity. And we program things a year, ahead. So we made the decision, you'll see in our brochure that there was originally a fee for it, and we've changed that now, and it's now going to be free to everyone. And we are publicizing it with our own dollars and working with her to bring these experts in. And I want to do more of that. Like right now in the Cultural Center, the Tarpon Springs Art Association is having their plein air event. And I do that with them at no charge to them. And also they're going to be doing an art show for the holidays as well. So my goal is to, now that the Cultural Center is open, to bring in, the Historical Society and, more artists to do exhibitions in that space. And also it's beautiful. It's so beautiful right now. It's all shiny and bright, and it's being utilized, and people are so proud of it. And we're going to also be putting in a conference table upstairs so area groups can meet there. And so I'm really excited about the future. And I feel like we do have things that I can provide to you as far as how many people come to the Safford House and the Heritage Museum on, we keep a tally on, a daily basis, and I could give you statistics for an entire year. And we also check, are they residents? Are they from out of state, or are they from Florida and, our general area? And it's very interesting. We've become kind of like a welcome center, for people. And my staff is very proud to talk about all the wonderful things that are here for people to take advantage of. Also partnering with local businesses, restaurant partners. If you buy a ticket to one of our shows, you can take that ticket stub and you can go before or after a show to our restaurant partners, and they're listed here in the brochure. And they will give you a complimentary scoop of ice cream or a glass of wine or a glass of beer. And it's just another way to kind of get people into those, businesses and hope, their revenue as well. So
Diane, this is really great. I had just seen this, and I think there's such a void of knowledge for people in these areas, like the 9 principles to a Florida-friendly yard. one of my responses to customers when I occasionally get calls about a high water bill, it's 99% of the time it's overwatering the grass. Probably in violation of our watering restrictions, which are only once a week unless you have reclaimed water. So I think with understandings of these principles, that would be the first step in getting that under control.
I would also love to work with the Sustainability Committee if you have different topics of things, educational things that you would like to see our residents be educated on. Let's talk about it, and we'll set up, a schedule where we can, bring a speaker in and, take care of that. I mean, I think possibilities are endless.
So also with respect to demonstrating, I understand you're joining in with Creative Pinellas to do a whole countywide.
Yes.
Could you mention what that's about?
I'm working with Barbara St. Clair of Creative Pinellas, and we got approval to partner with them to do a study on Pinellas County and the arts. And we're going to be doing a survey, and so our part of it is, because we have a lot of information in southern Pinellas County as far as the arts go, but we don't have a lot in central and northern Pinellas. And so this particular survey, working with Creative Pinellas, will help us to get the statistics to prove, all the good work that we are doing. And so it's going to be a very exciting
And
project.
it's through American for the Arts.
Yes.
So it's
A national committee.
And
yes.
it'll show the economic
All the impact,
driver
yes.
that the arts are here.
I can provide you with that information. It's very exciting. And we haven't started it yet, but,
Very
it's going to be wonderful.
All right, thank
This
you for
was
that.
Terrific.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'd like to do more like question and answer at the end, but let's get through the framework and then we can go from there. So, I mean, I'm just not seeing a ton of consensus in terms of an outcome for this first one. So, proposing that we move on to the local actions for that, and it looks like well, I'll just go in the numeric order. So action item 1 is adopt a strategic plan to protect, enhance, and expand the community's arts and cultural resources and strengthen creative industries. And then we also selected number 4. I have the wrong one here. I know why.
Oh, I see, votes.
So, why?
5 and 11?
Well, it's 1, 4, 6, and 7 got 4 or more votes in EAC1 objectives.
Okay, because I was on equity and
local.
empowerment.
Oh, we're
Sorry,
going
that's why I was just
across,
like looking in the
sorry.
wrong place. Okay, back on track. So
Going
yes.
down, it's across.
So local action 1, I just read it. Local action 4 is to collaborate with private, nonprofit, or regional organizations to increase access to and participation in the arts. Action 6 is provide financial or logistical support to local arts programs or cultural tourism. And then local action 7 is hire local artists to create artwork, sculptures, or perform in public spaces. And again, I think we're already doing that.
I believe that we are.
So it would be-
I had that actually written down that it's already happening.
Right.
But it's good, it's same thing as with the police department.
right.
You want to state that this
Checklist.
is,
State that we're doing it and then maybe
We're
even
doing
look
it
to
and
increase the
in-
amount going to it or
Right,
something like that.
right.
If that's, Okay, and then the other actions did not get a majority.
Okay.
So the next one, community cohesion. There was, again, 2 votes for 1, 2B, and 3B, but not,
Can I just advocate for one of these, especially number 11, action, protect and maintain local public artworks and cultural resources for future generations? That happens to be a problem in every community, that there's money spent to put the art up, but not money in the budget to maintain them, because things have to be restored, and Diane knows about this. And I know that that's a big issue, because, I made public art, and I also been on committees to find where that money can come from. And oftentimes what happens is then the public art looks horrible, and then people say, why do we have this? This is terrible. And there needs to be a clear maintenance of this, and that's all about sustainability. So that's why I even have an asterisk on 11, because that's as important as, cutting the lawn or whatever. So, and that's usually not in a budget.
Yeah, I agree with that. I had that in there as well.
Yes.
Thank you. I do sit as the liaison to the Public Art Committee, and part of our budget is automatically set aside for maintenance of the public art that is installed. And so we do have money to do that. Right now, we work with St. Kate Art, and they're specialists in doing that kind of maintenance. And we already have a maintenance program in place with them to oversee, especially our bronze statues. Those are the ones that, and if you see, there's 2 of the naiads that are missing from the roundabout in Dodecanese, and they've gone back to Greece for a little vacation. They will be back soon. But so they are with St. Kate right now, and they're very good at what they do. So they're in charge of it, and they're going to stabilize the statues and then reinstall them soon. So yes, I agree with you. It's like if you're going to put art in a city, it needs to be maintained, and we have addressed that. So thank you for bringing it
And
up.
we should put that in to make sure, because that is not always typical. And we don't always have St. Kate Arts, Thaddeus and Desmond, to do that. I mean, they're special people.
Okay, so does
Their
anybody
sons.
opposed to adding back in Action 11, protecting and maintaining local public artwork for cultural resources for future generations?
Say that again?
Are we okay with accepting that recommendation of adding back in local Action 11?
You mean and then with the statement that this is being addressed currently?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And if there's anything else, Diane, that you see that's in here that we didn't select, that that you're doing or your department's doing, please let us know, because again, just like with Chief Young, we want to make sure that we're being good advocates or ambassadors is the word I'm looking for.
And I'll get a copy.
Yeah, we can provide you a summary.
And I'll definitely look through that and give you any additional information.
Great, thank you. All right. Next is, where were we? Community cohesion? No. So there isn't a consensus on an actual outcome, but in terms of the local actions, where are we? Sorry, guys, I'm just off today.
5 and 11.
And
No, I know, I'm
10.
just trying, I'm looking on this sheet. I'm trying to get myself reoriented. We're on EC2. Okay. All right, so local actions 2, no. Yes, 2, 5, 11, 10, and 11. So local action 2 is maintain a publicly accessible inventory of social networks and groups like block captains, civic organizations, trusted elders organized by geography or neighborhood. Local action 5 is collaborate with neighborhood associations, civic groups, and local service providers to identify and address neighborhood-specific needs. Local action 10 is provide programs that support the development of positive, strong youth leaders, particularly in low-income and minority neighborhoods. And then local action 11 is create a volunteer program for residents to assist the local government and community with special events, services, and operations. Any thoughts about that? All right, moving on then to educational opportunity and attainment. We did have 4 votes for outcome 4, which is addressing the graduation rate. And in terms of equity, so increase or maintain 90% or above the average 4-year adjusted cohort high school graduation rate for all students in all public schools in the jurisdiction from each race and ethnicity, special education, English language learners, and low-income subgroup of students. And then the local actions that were selected were just action item 6, which is programs and services. So program or support after-school activities, tutoring and/or extended day programs for majority of students who need additional academic assistance outside of the school day. Any comments about
So we're just
EAC3?
narrowing these down to just one action?
Mm-hmm.
Really? Wow. Because there were a lot of them that I thought were really, were excellent, but,
I agree. I think a lot of them are outside of what the city can do because it's governed by the school board.
right.
So I think that
Right.
that was my reluctance to select quite a few of them. Not that I didn't think that they're valuable or important.
Tori, before we go to the next one, I just wanted to give Diane an opportunity to head on out if there were any other questions, because she's primarily an EAC 1. I think that's her main thing in this whole list, and wanted to respect her time.
Sure, yeah. What about historic preservation? Is there anything in that maybe, or no?
I think that'd be more of a planning department thing.
Okay.
So I would like to, Diane, you said that you will go over this section, because there's many things in that section that I would like to see in this plan. And I think that if you would look in and see what's appropriate for the arts.
Well, I mean, my goal is to utilize our historic buildings as much as we possibly can and get, as much exposure to our residents and students. We used to bring in, excuse me, I'm sorry. We used to bring bus the students in to come and see some of the shows and everything, and that was a wonderful opportunity for them. And now with the bus schedules, it doesn't allow them to do it, and so it's been a little bit of a handicap for us. One of the things that we're going to be adding, for the younger children is, we want to start at the cultural center some more acting workshops and things. The Art Association does a great job working with the kids, and the library programs do a great job too, with the visual arts. But I feel like there's a lot of opportunity for the performing arts and children, and we've done it in the past, and it's worked out really well, where they were the actors, they were the stars, and they also love, we're doing Beauty and the Beast this year too, so I can't wait to envision, all the little girls in their Belle outfits and their Beast and the boys in their Beast outfits, running down the aisles, But that's my goal, is to do some more, with the kids, because that's how they grow to be confident, individuals too, just by being able to participate. We did Aladdin about 2 seasons ago, and they were kids from 8 to 16. And it was really a joy for me to see the children that were so quiet and just really didn't want to even make eye contact with you, and to see the production at the very end with them singing and dancing, and even the little 8-year-olds are out there, kicking up their heels and doing what they're supposed to do. I was amazed. It was such an awesome production. So, it's great, kind of thing. So I will look at your, everything that they give me, and I will definitely comment, because very proud of what we're all doing. Yes.
I have a question for you. Do you ever do anything geared towards like a student night out, where maybe children go into the shows at a discounted rate or for free, bring a paying adult and bring the child for free. Are there opportunities for those kinds of things?
Yes, we actually have a $10 ticket for students, with, all they have to do is show their ID or, just come up to the ticket office. We can tell their kids, so, yes, we have a $10 ticket. We try to encourage them to come. I've even had some of the people that I book do outreach, and I've reached out to, some of the schools saying, hey, we've got this opportunity, and it's just something that we just can't logistically schedule because of, some of the restrictions that they have. So there is a lot of opportunity, but I think maybe in the evenings and more on the weekends will be a good opportunity to
I do think
let
there's,
them come in.
I don't know if this is being addressed, and that's why I asked. I think there is an opportunity being missed for low-income families to be involved and get out there. That's not something, oftentimes in families with low income, it's also a time issue, right? Maybe you have one working parent and what have you. So I'd be interested to know or to see if there's kind of a way to have some sort of focus to the lower income community and bring those families or children out so they get to experience something that maybe they can't afford.
Right.
Or it's really nice, it's the difference between coming to a special event with a family of 4 or 5 people or food for the week, and this is kind of like
True.
it gives them an opportunity to come and experience something that maybe they wouldn't before. So I just didn't know if that, again, was something that was out there or.
That's a great idea. We are going to have an event that's open and free to the public because I wanted to demonstrate how the power of the arts, and that's going to be, we've had to change it 3 times because of the pandemic, but it's called The Art of Health, and it's going to be at Craig Park on May 14th. And we are going to have concerts, free concerts in the band shell. We're going to have a children's area. We're going to have all kinds of demonstrations. But the purpose of it is to show how the visual and performing arts enhance a person's well-being. And it's a great opportunity for the public to come out with, families and just enjoy it, enjoy the crafts, We're going to have Mr. Brad, he's, one-man band, and have the kids give them some bubbles and let them dance. And, Fred Johnson's going to come out. He's an amazing artist with the Straz, and he gets everybody involved. And, so I think it's going to be a really powerful opportunity and for the community. But I do like your idea of trying to provide some other things. I've worked with Reverend Milton Smith to try to get some of the adults from more disadvantaged neighborhoods and worked with some of the pastors of some of the local black churches. And we weren't able to really kind of make it work. We had a very small percentage that took us up on the really low price tickets. But, it's a start, and so I'm trying to bring in different artists that might be of interest, to a more diverse community, kind of thing. So we're working on it, but thank you. Any of your suggestions, my email, dwood, it's nice and easy, at ctsfl.us. Please bring them on. I would love to hear from you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for your time. I do want to say that I personally have been involved in community theater. I was in Sound of Music a number of years ago and made just wonderful friendships that are still in the community that I wouldn't have otherwise, and played Soledad Safford at the Safford House for Christmas a couple of years. And it really does, like, when you get involved, you realize what a great community we have, and you meet people. So I would really encourage community theater
Yes.
coming back in the summertime to do that summer stock program, because it really does build the community. And it's great because, I can't really sing that great, but that's okay, because, you know what I mean? Because
Well, and to your point, our community theater is what saved us during COVID, because we worked with the fire department and police department, and, they had very strict mandates. It's like I wanted to uplift people and put on some comedy shows, and the only way I could do it was in the Heritage Museum, and so we could actually take our portable chairs and socially distance. Chief gave me a PVC pole that was 6 feet long, and he says, all right, you measure all these chairs, and make sure everybody's socially distanced. And we required them to wear masks, and we disinfected everything. But it was the community theater, and the local performers that, kept us going and kept us viable. So, my hats off to them. And your whole family was even involved with, the Safford House. So thank you. Wish we could have you back.
Not as blonde, it doesn't work. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Diane.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Paul, for that recommendation. All right, and we were,
We're at historic EAC
historic
4.
preservation. All right, so for outcomes, we have outcome 2. And outcome 3 that had 4 votes. So outcome 2 is increase over time the annual number of eligible structures and sites and landscapes designated as local historic landmarks added to local historic districts and or rehabilitated, restored, or converted through adaptive reuse. So I think that that's what you were speaking to earlier, is how do we make that, how does that process work, right? Is that what your question was? Or no? Am I
Yes.
mischaracterizing that?
Well, how, if it's already happening, how do we form that in the statements that we're presenting? The different actions, if things are already occurring, that was what I made a comment on. If they're already underway, we should say this, that they're already
Okay.
being accomplished, and we would like to see them continue for future generations, or however the language needs to be. I don't think that we need to take what is written in each of these actions verbatim if we can craft it to be more expansive.
Okay.
Well, there's a historic district, but for example, the cemetery just became on the National Register a couple years ago because Tina Bukavalis did all the work and submitted it to the national thing to make that historic. So, I mean, there's procedures to apply to be a historic structure or a place. And then, like, she got national historic registry for the cemetery. I guess it was the Greek cemetery. Isn't that right? I'm pretty sure.
Well,
that's
it's
what
our
it is.
cemetery, but because of the Greek heritage, yeah.
So people, Tina Bukavalis, that's her thing.
Mm-hmm.
But there is procedures to do that, to make something historic. So that's one way you do it.
Very good. All right. And then outcome 3 is demonstrate historic preservation efforts have a positive impact on the local economy. So we want to work on both of those outcomes. And to do that, we've got action 1, which is create an inventory of designated and eligible historic structures and sites in the community. Bonus if there are, includes archaeological resources. And then we also selected action 4, which is adopt land use, zoning, and design regulations that support and reinforce existing community character in older and historic neighborhoods and commercial areas and promote development of sensitive, compatible infill.
4.
Action 5 is collaborate with local nonprofit or for-profit entities to support local events and recognition programs and tourism efforts that celebrate and leverage the economic value of local historic resources. Which, again, we may already do that. I think we do, right? With, at least with part of that, with the
Sponge
tourists.
docks and-
Exactly,
yeah.
yeah. And then local action 9 is provide local financial assistance to low and moderate income homeowners, residents, seniors, and/or businesses vulnerable to rising real estate values and maintenance costs associated with historic preservation. And then the only thing that I'd like to add to it is I would argue that I'd like to add local action 2. And local action 2 is
Adopt a
adopt a historic preservation plan. that establishes community priorities for preservation. So instead of just taking an inventory, going the next step and saying, this is what we want to preserve.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Just, maybe I just don't really understand everything that the Historic Preservation Board does. Would they have a plan? Like, do they, my question would be, if that's, is that already being done? Do they already have a system for going through, what should be considered next on the list? Or, wow, we need to look at this? Or do people submit recommendations that maybe this should be looked at as being considered part of the historic portion of the community? I don't know enough about the Historic Preservation Board and its actions and its, to
Well, I
know
know
the
that
answer.
when Tina did the cemetery, it was her project. She just went ahead. She was working for the city at that time for the cultural art thing, and she just went ahead and did it. So there wasn't any, from what I can tell, any list from talking to Tina about it.
But you have different, you have the historic preservation, you have the historical society, and you also have the planning department that has the list of contributing structures and historic structures. So you have different entities that are all capturing information. So a lot of that has already been determined, what are the most significant historic structures or the oldest structures and this and that. But I think it's more than just the preservation. Wouldn't you say that it's the historical society and the planning department all part of it?
Yes, and I wanted to add that I think Pat McNeese of Planning is working on a grant right now to do with historic preservation. I don't know if it ties in with the sea level rise specifically or more in general, but I can send something to you all about that.
Well, I would imagine there would be some sort of collaboration then amongst those groups. You would hope.
Probably not. but
Well, okay, I'm going to be the optimist here.
Go
that-
for
that, you would hope that, I mean, the same way we're trying to not reinvent the wheel by, just starting at ground zero with this, you would hope that they would all kind of, at some point come together and there would be a plan.
Is
For
there
the
any way we can
priorities.
talk to somebody, a representative?
Yeah, and I don't know.
That was going to be part of my email back to you all, is ask planning staff to give us a description of the roles of the various groups that we're talking about here and how they might have a plan.
I know that when we first came to Tarpon to look for a place to live, we looked in the historic district, and we had to go to the city to find out if any improvements we wanted to make could be made. And, we had all of these things that we could do or couldn't do. And, oftentimes there's issues about paint color and all types of things. So the city probably has some sort of plan. They have,
Maybe an element of the comp plan, for all I know, but I don't pretend to be an expert on that. But I'll find out and let you all know.
But there are clear restrictions about what you can do and can't do.
Okay, but just to make sure that we're clear, so is everybody okay with adding in local action too?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'd like to know that we don't have one already. So,
Okay.
so yes, with the bookmark, that maybe we can find out, do we have some sort of plan in place already?
And if we do, then we can highlight it.
And then we can highlight it, right? Then we don't have to adopt a new one or recreate the wheel, we can highlight it.
Okay, excellent.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And now we are on EAC 5, Social and Cultural Diversity. So we have selected almost as a majority here. Outcome 2, demonstrate that public events celebrate social and cultural diversity are held in the community. And then the local actions to support that are local action 3, which is education and outreach, provide information about community issues, programs, services, and activities that is accessible to limited English proficiency residents. Local action 5, provide diversity or cultural competence training for local government staff. And local action 7, which is host events and programs that recognize and celebrate the community's social and cultural diversity. Any additions or comments about EAC 5? All right. And then the last EAC is 6, aging in the community. We did not have enough votes for an outcome. We have 2 local actions. So local action 1 is conduct a survey of aging community members to assess how well they feel that present and future needs are being met. And local action 2, adopt an action-based plan to identify priority services, needs, and resources to address the current and future needs of older residents.
And I would look into, there's a program at the library,
The senior center.
the senior center at the library, so they may have some of the information that would be pertinent to what we're looking at here.
And it's actually been relocated to the Recreation Community Center.
Thank you for the clarification. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't need it yet for myself.
No.
You could
So
go
I haven't
visit.
gone, I could go visit.
For much later,
Yeah,
yeah.
thank you. Much later, thank you.
That's something that the mayor's been really
He's
involved in.
very involved in the
Yeah.
senior community and, which I think is wonderful, but we want to see that continue on. When he, when he terms
Absolutely.
out, we want to make sure that, our senior population is being addressed.
And Tarpon has a large senior population.
All right. That's a wrap for education, arts, and community, and the whole STAR framework. So yay! It only took 8 months, but we nailed it. All right. So where's my? There we go. All right. So next item is our continued discussion on timeline and community input. And Paul, would you mind kicking us off talking about coordinating and what's happening with the comp plan and strategic plan outreach?
Yes. So I've been working a lot with Renee, the planning director, and this is a fluid process. It's ongoing right now, so the information I'm giving you is preliminary, but I hope you find it helpful. At this point, and this all needs to be finalized and ultimately approved by the commission as part of their oversight of this process. But right now, the draft ideas are that there'll be 3 policy workshops proposed. And appointed boards will be invited to all 3 workshops. And the idea would be to have some breakout groups where you all would work as a unit with the advisors to make sure our issues are reflected in the comprehensive plan process. And we're still working through the schedule, but the time frame sometime around January, February, perhaps for the first one. And of course, those would continue through the process. A general idea of how this is mapped out, Renee estimates it's 1 year to 18-month process that they're going to be working through this. So it's pretty long term. You know, you all may be working on the first part, but also completing your SAP draft in parallel to that. You know, you won't be waiting for that process to complete for the comp plan, but you'll,
What's an SAP?
your sustainability action.
Plan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you need to know that one.
I'm not good with these letters. I like the whole thing.
So, let's see. Also, ideas for ways to be heard. These are just kind of put together thoughts. For the strategic plan, there's online sessions that are open to anyone. There's a resident survey. And for the comp plan, there will be these policy workshops that I just mentioned a minute ago.
Can I ask a clarifying question then?
Yes.
So for the strategic plan, the community input is going to be via the online survey.
Yes, online sessions, resident survey, and these are just my notes I wrote down talking to Renee. And there's a,
This is different than the Pinellas County.
yes, it is.
Correct.
This is ours.
Because we have the that Pinellas County
Yeah,
survey.
we're getting there.
Talk
Okay.
about that, yeah.
That was sort of a little confusing,
So-
why we were getting that, but go on.
But that's just an example of how somebody else,
Example.
yeah.
Can you
Okay.
repeat what you just said? There's an online survey or?
Yes,
Oh, has that been created already or is it in the?
it's being created, yes.
Being created.
And it's different from the one that we were sent, the Pinellas?
That's right,
Pinellas
yes.
County.
We're gonna talk about Pinellas on part B coming up, very next part of the item, and I'll explain all of that. So what we're talking about right now is what the city's doing with its comp plan and strategic plan outreach. And just to remind you, so the strategic plan is roughly the 5 to 7 year period, and the comp plan is that longer, 20-year-ish type plan, just so you kind of get it in your mind.
And that is supposed to be done in a year or 18 months?
That's the comp plan. That's the 3 policy workshops that are proposed will be spread out over that period of time.
Okay.
And I'll tell you what, once this gets congealed a little more, we'll get you something in writing so you can refer to it. I'm really just giving you some preliminary thoughts on how this is working. I know that Dory's been asking some good questions about how is this going to mesh with what we're doing, and we want to make sure that we're tying in. So I was happy to hear that there is a plan to have these appointed boards specifically grouped to get focused input into this process early on.
So one of the things that confuses me a bit is that the city's starting this strategic plan now, and yet in March, there'll be a whole new commission and mayor and everything. But the committees are being appointed by the current commission, who in a few months are going to be gone. So it sort of seems a little odd to me that there's this big turnover, and then the input will probably be different from the new commission, from the old commission.
I understand,
insight
yeah,
into
I
that?
understand the point, but I'll tell you, that's always going to happen to some degree when you're dealing with a long-term plan. I think this is being done in good faith effort. This commission wants to make some progress on this, even if it may not, parts of it be here for the rest of it. You just got to continue in good faith that it's going to largely be continued. It may be modified, sort of like our plan. We know starting out, we're pretty sure it's going to be different in 5 years from what our first thing is. That's not a reason not to do it, though. So I think, yeah, but that's a good point, and that's actually been discussed. But I think it's been decided we need to press on, and this is important work.
Can I ask one small question regarding sustainability or the strategic plan and the comprehensive plan? Doesn't it seem reasonable to expect that sustainability would be woven into both? Completely integrated in the consciousness of these creations of these plans. Otherwise, it's kind of like they're ideals, but there's not a reality in how to achieve it for long term, right?
I understand, and
Is
yeah, I
that
think
what's
so.
going on, or is there a discussion about that, the integration of the sustainability into both the strategic and comprehensive plan?
So I think that's why, they're asking our committee to come to the comp plan work session
Okay,
so that we can
So
be
we can
doing
be
that.
part of
Yes,
that.
so we're part of that. So the comp plan, there's 3 in-person workshops. We're going to be participating in one of those as a committee, is my understanding.
Actually, all 3
All
is what
3.
Renee said.
Okay, great.
Her initial
Dates on
ideas, yeah.
those?
She
And
said
that-
they're starting January, February of next year for the first one.
Okay,
And
so
is
we
that
don't know
the
the
entire
exact
committee,
date.
or just you, Dory, or what?
The whole committee.
So it'll be a whole sunshine thing so that everybody, knows that you all are together talking to each other.
Ooh. So I think this is great
Yeah.
that
Okay,
Renee has
think that is awesome.
Then thinking about that and wanting to
Yeah.
plug us in. So please thank her for us for
We
that
will.
opportunity.
Yes.
And then the strategic plan is already happening as an online survey. So if you have not seen that, then we can
Please,
share that.
yeah,
Make sure
put
that
the
everybody
link.
can give feedback. But there are quite a few, because I've taken it, there are quite a few questions about sustainability in the strategic plan
If you all would
questionnaire.
like a separate email
Yes.
on that, instructions on how to make sure you get your input on that?
Yes,
Yes,
please.
Okay.
I may have already done it. I can't remember.
Okay, thank you
All
for
right.
clarifying all that. I think
Thank
we're all
you.
straight
Yes,
now on
Yes.
Good.
what the city's doing. Then the next is,
Could I ask one more question?
Oh, and let me also just caveat it one more time. This is very preliminary discussion. I mean, just fresh off the press, you know, Renee meeting with the consultants, talking about ideas on how to integrate. This will ultimately need to get reviewed with the city manager and the commission. I don't have any reason to believe it'd get changed a whole bunch, but just want you to know exactly where that information is. Very draft right now.
Could you just quickly say what the difference is between the comprehensive plan and the strategic plan?
Yeah, I gave you my best answer. The comp plan is your shorter term, I'm sorry, the strategic plan is your shorter term 5 to 7 year horizon. And the comp plan is your longer term, I've heard the 20-year example of the term of that. So they're all woven together.
Comprehensive, it's a bit more comprehensive. It's-
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's very comprehensive.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it.
Hence the title. Okay, that's helpful.
I don't have any more information. I told you everything I
Okay.
got.
Do they have different focus on, never mind.
moving on to the county's outreach program. So the county is also writing an action plan, a sustainability action plan, and that's what agenda item 3B is.
And they were kind enough to give theirs a different title so you all wouldn't be confused. They actually added an R in theirs, so they got an SRAP. They've thrown resiliency in there.
Oh, good.
But we all think that resiliency's in sustainability, so we don't think we need that extra R. So if you hear SRAPs, that'd be the county. SAP, that would be the city.
That's us.
And I'm wondering if there is a way that we can help to push out the county's plan so that they can get feedback from residents in Tarpon. Because I feel like sometimes we're like the north.
For well-being of our county, you know.
Well, I want to save that for like Tarpon.
Yeah, I was thinking the same
Selfishly.
thing.
Selfishly, like I want to.
pay for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking that like a easier lift could be like the city social media page or whatever to push that out that the
Okay.
county's doing that.
There's that whole, Tarpon Springs Community Facebook page, and there's our sustainability website page, as well as the city's website page. I mean, there's a lot on social media, I think that, that it can.
So if each of us could
Yeah.
make a point of doing
It
that
was
on our own
helpful
personal
to
stuff.
go. Was it you that alerted us to this story, or was it Ashley? The Plan Pinellas workshops that they had? I
Oh,
moved
I know
on
what you're
to the- you
talking
did
about.
too,
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
you?
yeah.
I found that very helpful, where they went over the plan and what they were gonna do. And it was also about, sustainability. So
The
there,
overview.
an overview,
Yeah.
yes, and the things they were focusing on. And we have access from what we were sent by Ashley to their website, and their website's very informative. And what the county is doing is quite remarkable.
Quite a study.
They've been a great partner with us in terms of sustainability. The county proactively reached out to all the communities to form a resiliency network and sustainability resiliency network. And we've been participating in that for probably 2 years now. And it's really created a lot of good synergy. Something that Dory asked me to get from the county sustainability person, his name's Hank Hottie, and he wrote an email to me, and I'll just read it. It's not very long, but it gives you an overview of what they're doing. This was meant to be an example for us, and I think you'll see some themes here. We have 2 public surveys total. The first one, which is out now, primarily in an online format, will inform the development of the SRAP. The questions in the survey were based on internal findings from staff surveys. So we're essentially affirming what we think we do and don't know. So you see that pattern there. They went to the staff first, and now they're going out to the public, and Dory mentioned that earlier in the meeting. Once we have drafted the SRAP, then we go out for second public input. So they go back out again after they've drafted it to get response on the SRAP itself. Then they hope to conduct more in-person engagement during this round, including town halls, focus groups, etc. They're still working out the details of that. Then this feedback will inform finalizing the SRAP and then going to the commission. So that's sort of their sequence. Staff, first public survey, finish their plan, second round of public, including in-person meetings, and finally finalizing it with the commission. I would recommend to us that we probably want to show a draft of some kind to the commission, a working thing, just so we don't pull the sheet off of something we've been working on a year and, have a big disconnect in what we're doing. And, just something to think about. We don't need to decide anything now, but we probably want to build in an earlier review with the commission. And it may be part of your report to them. That's something I think we do in May. Maybe that'll work out. It doesn't have to be in May, but maybe that's the vehicle that you do that. So hopefully that's helpful.
Really, one of the things about this survey is that it wastes a lot of space. And when I fill out something, I like to print it out so I have a copy of it. And I wouldn't print this out because it takes like too many pages. Like the spaces are like this big. They could just be this big. So it's the first thing I noticed. Why is it so big?
Is it the survey you're talking
Yeah, the survey.
Yeah, all the space.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, because I like to have a record of what I'm putting in. So that's a whole different sort of comment, but.
All right.
All right, so moving on to 3C, committee ideas for how we are going to engage. So remember last time we met, I asked you guys to think of like how you would engage the community, what ideas you have for engaging the community. So do we have some ideas? Have we given it thought, or do we want to move it to next month's meeting?
I've got a couple personal small ones, but we could move it to next meeting.
Yes.
Let's move it then?
Yes.
Yeah, because we're running out of time, and I want to make sure that we also talk about how we intend to get staff input. So Paul, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure.
Dory, if we could find out our goal, like what ages of residents are we looking to engage? Do they have to be adults? Do they have to be? How broad of a reach or net are we trying to cast with this?
For our engagement of the
Yes.
community?
Yes.
I mean, I think I'd like to try to get as broad a reach as we can.
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion.
I do. I think we think differently than, 14, 13, 5-year-olds. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
a community, right? And so I think sometimes people that you least expect come up with this idea,
I
and
agree.
you're like, wow, I'm so glad we open it up
Yeah.
to everybody.
And this is helpful for us to think about how broadly it's like not just the usual thing, like we'll go to this adult group or that adult group, that we're trying to really get a
And
nice.
I would like to even think outside of the box in terms of getting like non-traditional participants.
Sure.
And like, can we offer payment, or can we have a raffle for gift cards, or can we, you know what I mean, to try to pull people that, like, incenting them to come and spend their time with us, because not everybody can afford to just volunteer.
That's good.
Okay, so be thinking for next month. Okay. And then back to staff input.
So yes, I did confirm, the city manager, we talked some time ago, it's been probably 6 months or more, about the idea of bringing staff in a workshop with you all so that we could have a discussion, with staff as a group. I'll also tell you all, a draft idea we've been working on is some sort of, we don't have a name yet, but a green team. I've talked to the city manager about this, about getting a diverse group of city staff that may be involved in some way in sustainability in the various departments and having them working regularly, meeting regularly on things and helping us with decision making. So that group could be the group that we workshop with. It would be an efficient way to do that. It's not necessarily every department head. It may be a certain, I'll give you an example, Shannon Brewer, the city arborist. She's not a department head,
Right.
but she's got a really important role, so she would be in that group.
Yep.
And then we would bring certain department heads in as needed. For example, if we're looking at incentives, to try to incentivize employees to drive an electric vehicle or something, we'd want to bring HR director in those discussions to make sure whatever we're doing is equitable and legal and all of those things. So, yeah, we've got some ideas there, and I do like that suggestion that we bring the staff in as a group with you all to discuss what we want to do with our sustainability action plan.
Yep.
And the right time to do that may be, now that we've worked our way through all the goal areas, we've got the summary of the outcomes and local actions that we think are important. We could put that together in a summary format that hopefully isn't too draining, and review that with staff, give them an opportunity to see something ahead of the meeting and give comments in different areas.
Calling it the green team creates the impression, and we had a discussion on this, I think, the last time, I don't think you were here, that sustainability is just about the environment and things, where sustainability, as we're working on it, is much broader than that. And calling it a green team gives the impression that it's just about trees and
Sure.
environment. So I would suggest not to call it that, but to call it something that's more inclusive.
Okay.
I hope we are a green team.
Any
but
other thoughts on that?
When are we thinking about like workshops? Have we started thinking about dates? Or are we gonna do all the input first?
I'm thinking like a couple months out. I need a little bit of time working with Ashley to summarize what we all have come up with, and then also coming up with a way I'd like you all to have input on how to summarize it and put it in a manner that we can use to review. So that might be as early as next meeting, but maybe the one after that. So realistically, maybe 3 months from now, that would give us time to put the team together too, and let them know what we're asking them to do.
How is that going to be selected? Like, are employees going to, if they just have a burning desire to be part of it, even if they aren't? Like, it should,
Yeah, I think the first thing would be to look through our different staff responsibilities and find those core ones that have direct relationships. Then of them, which ones would want to, we don't want someone there that doesn't really want to be there. So
Right.
I don't think we'd get a lot of that, but we definitely want to factor that in too. And then, like you say, anyone that maybe really wants to be part of it that you wouldn't have thought of due to their responsibilities, I think we should consider that as well.
Me too.
Yeah, because, I feel like it should go out to all staff just to make them aware that this committee's forming. And then, it could be even maybe a police officer. It's like, hey, I see the value in what this is, even though it's not necessarily traditionally what you would think.
Well, we talked about the police, so.
No, I know, but I'm
Yeah.
just saying that,
Yeah.
I think that's good.
as an example, because it's top of my head. Okay, so maybe we can revisit staff input as well as community ideas for next month's meeting. get a little bit more feedback and a little more ideas going. All right, so moving on to items for our next agenda. So I think we just moved those two to the next agenda. But then I'm excited because Ashley has got a great idea for putting this all together. Do you want to talk about what that's going to be?
Are you talking about the spreadsheet that I showed you?
Yes.
Okay. So what I did was collect all of the local actions, the outcomes, and I made it, I'm hoping easily readable. I could definitely send it out to you guys. I just plan on putting in the rest of the preferences from EAC, and then I'll send it out to you guys so you can take a look, see if I missed anything. But it's a little bit more central on the page, so you just kind of go through everything. And if you guys have any ideas or want me to change it in some way that makes it a little bit easier, just let me know and we'll fix it up.
You'd be able to project it up there now, would you?
I could, yeah.
So I think the intent is to not have all of the tabs
Yeah.
because that's a little confusing. And that was Ashley.
Yeah, the tabs didn't go over so well with this group.
No.
So we don't want to hide anything behind tabs.
And then also you were going to color code it, right, Ashley? So that
So it is color coded,
it's got
so
that
it references.
visual appeal.
Yep. And unfortunately, I actually cannot. I do not have a flash drive, so I
Okay,
apologize.
no worries. So be looking then maybe between the next meeting. Do you
Yeah.
think that you would have time between the next meeting to send that out to the group?
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent.
Yay! And then also another idea for next agenda would be, remember how Paul did a great job of taking the one, I think it was one of the first ones we did, maybe natural systems, and kind of made
Yeah.
the graphic that looks like St. Petersburg's plan. Why can't I find a page that has it? There we go. So taking what we've done so far and starting to turn it into this so that it makes more sense to not just us, but to other folks that would be reading it. So I don't know if you'll have time to get, like, maybe the next one besides natural systems, whatever that second one was. But
That
then
would
we
be
can kind of
helpful.
look and talk and make sure that we're agreeing on how we want it being put out to the general public for consumption.
Great.
And I think that will probably take quite a bit of time, those items, unless there's anything else that anybody wants to add tonight.
I think we're running
That's a
out of
lot.
time.
Yeah. Okay, well then, moving on to public comments. Anyone from the public want to comment?
Hello, everyone. My name is Harry Fuller. I see a familiar face over there. Together with Ron Haddad with the Rotary and the Noble Grand David Lohman with the Odd Fellows, we've formed a Greater Tarpon Springs Community Council. And we've already had Chief Young speak at one of our meetings. We are basically a organization, much like the Dunedin Council of Organizations, how they do it in Dunedin, like a group of fraternal organizations, but we also invited several other community action organizations, like the Metropolitan Ministries, Salvation Army. And what we've been doing is that we've been getting together and see what we can do to have a positive impact in Tarpon Springs and the greater Tarpon Springs community. I wanted to attend this meeting tonight. I have several ideas, and Mr. Smith, I'll be more than happy to confer with you in terms of the Sustainability Committee here. But also, like I said, as a community organization, I wanted to attend the meeting tonight. I'll be more than happy to send you an email as to what our intentions are and what we want to do and possibly to assist in terms of sustainability. I've been to other city commission meetings also, and so I'm very well, I know the mayor and I know a lot of people in the community and everything like that. I just want to, like I said, tell you that I wanted to attend the meeting tonight and introduce myself, and we are at your disposal.
Well, thank you so much for attending our meeting and for the offer. Yeah, it would be great if you wouldn't mind sending Paul an email with, if you have a website or whatever kind of information you guys have.
What we have right now, we just have a Facebook page.
Okay.
It's Greater Tarpon Springs Community Council. I am also involved with other organizations. I'm a member of the Sons of the American Revolution. I'm also a Mason, Dunedin Lodge, but I belong to the Odd Fellows here in Tarpon Springs. And like I said, we created this organization here in Tarpon Springs, and we want to, benefit our community.
Great. Well, thank you so much for attending and making us aware.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Kelvin Kwan. I work with Amoresco. We've been the energy efficiency partner with City of Tarpon Springs since about 2013, 2014, where we conducted a comprehensive energy efficiency project throughout the entire city. And I just want to introduce myself. We've identified additional solutions that can be implemented to reduce the carbon footprint further and also promote install new renewable energy systems, solar PV specifically. So we're in the process of kind of indicating that to the city what the opportunity is so that we can potentially roll it into a subsequent project.
Very good. All right. Well, thank you for
Thank you.
what you guys are doing. I think that the energy efficiency program's been really successful in like lowering cities' bills, but also energy use. So thanks for.
Absolutely. I just want to introduce myself to the Sustainability Committee. I came maybe 4 months ago, but I didn't realize the timing. So I'm actually from Orlando. So it's
wow.
a little bit of a drive for me.
So you came from Orlando just for this?
I did. I talked to Ashley yesterday. I was meeting with Tom Funchen, who's another public works director, and he Ashley indicated that typically public comment is towards the end of the meeting, so that's why I popped in towards the end of the meeting.
Great. Thank you. And if you both have cards or any kind of, that would be great.
Thanks, Calvin. Appreciate you coming.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
Ashley, if you have his information, could you send it to us?
Sure. Yeah, I have email and then whatever you give
Know
me on
what
the
he's
card.
doing? That's great.
Awesome.
Oh, okay. That's wonderful.
I don't have a card on me, but I can provide you my personal information if you need it.
Yeah, that's perfect. Okay. Will you be here after the meeting?
All right. Very good. So now we are on to staff comments.
Ashley, are you prepared to talk about the meeting, the next meeting?
Yes, let me go ahead and pull this up real quick. So there will actually be something happening in downstairs in the auditorium. It may be loud, so it's potential that we can move the meeting. Let me just pull this up real quick. I don't know how you guys feel about either moving over to the conference room, the one we initially met in. Yep, right around the corner. Or we can switch it to the 17th. That seems to be available, but I'll have to confirm that. If you have any other dates or suggestions, I could bring that forth as well and see what's
We need to
available.
switch the date.
I
think
know,
that
that's my
makes it really,
instinct.
really difficult because we're just always consistent on the third Thursday, so it's kind of just in the calendar.
Let me mention one more thing with keeping the date, and I understand your comment. We won't be able to videotape the meeting because they'll be tied up with the performance. So it will be tape recorded, but it just won't have the videotape.
So we can come in our PJs.
Let's do it.
That's what I just heard. What I'm hearing you say, Paul. Okay.
You have to walk through.
I like that, Karen. I like that. Yeah, my preference is to keep it on the 18th and we'll just plug away in the other room. And
Okay.
all right.
Very good.
Any
I'll
other?
give you all just a quick update on the sustainability position. We are advertising now. And we did reach out to our group that I talked about earlier in the county to let them all know about it and sent the job posting to them to share. We also sent it to USF's Sustainability Contact. They're going to share it with alums from their program. And then also we're doing the usual Indeed and city website and that sort of thing. So Ashley's tracking the applications coming in. And we're going to take a look at that next week. I understand the balance between waiting to get a whole bunch, but if you wait too long, sometimes the good fish get away. So we don't want that to happen. There may be multiple rounds of interviews, whatever we need to do to get the best choices. But I just want you to know that's active and that's going, and we're all looking forward to hopefully successful recruitment. We would like to get the person integrated into our process, before we get too far into drafting.
Did you mention sending it out to a contact maybe at IFAS or anything? Be worth doing that?
It would. I think they are part of our network, but I'll double check. That's a great comment. And that's all I have.
Great.
Good news.
Any committee comments?
I have something. So I'm very proud to announce that Robert Stackhouse and I are going to be artist in residence on the Falcor, which is the Smith Ocean Institute year-round research vessel, international, that goes all over the world, researching the ocean. And we are leaving on November 6th. And they fly us to La Paz, Mexico, where the Falcor will be, because it's been in the Pacific doing research on vents in the ocean and whatever lives in them. And we found out just the other day that they're unclear where our destination is. And initially, we were going to Spain, to Vigo, Spain, because they're picking up a larger research vessel. They're trading in the Falcor for Falcor 2.
Carol,
Yes?
I'm going to have to interrupt you just for 1 second. I'm sorry. It is 8:01.
Well,
Can we extend the meeting? Can I get a?
Motion to extend the meeting?
a minute or two.
Second it.
So it's extremely
Aye.
exciting.
Aye. Wait, we need to vote. Carol?
I'm sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay,
And,
go ahead.
So this is all philanthropic. So the Schmidts are, the people who used to run Google. So they do this as a philanthropic, international teams of scientists do this, and they always have an artist on board. So I have no idea how long we're going to be gone, maybe a month. That's what we were initially going to be gone on this ship. And so this is the final voyage of the Falcor, and going to be changed into Falcor 2. And the reason they're changing it is because the new vessel, which is 300 feet long, can go into ice. And one of their main things is to map the ocean floor. And they've discovered things. They discovered the new coral reef of Australia that's taller than the Empire State Building. They discovered that giant squid, and they're examining how New Zealand's really a continent, and New Zealand's just the mountaintops of the continent. I mean, it's so exciting. And it came out of our science conversations from our Expanding Waters exhibition at Preta Pinellas. So I won't be here. That's the upshot of all of it. And probably not November and December, so I hope you will excuse my absence.
I think we should excuse
cool.
that for sabbatical, for learning about the world around you.
Yeah.
And that's cool, that that little drop in the water from that event that you hosted.
Oh,
created
and
that
every
opportunity.
day, we'll be on Instagram and all of this, and every day, I hope at the same time, we will take the temperature of the water, and we will go out and put an ice cube into the ocean.
Love it. All right, any other committee
Part of our
comments?
show, yeah.
All right.
All right, then the meeting is adjourned at 8:04. Thank you
Ocean
all.
ice. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.